Daydream Believers with Elle and Elle. Elle, how are ya?
I'm well.
That's great. How surprising.
I know, something different and new. I don't know what else to answer in those moments.
Speak the truth.
My body's in pain.
Why is it in pain?
I went to a cable park that has like an inflatable pool inside of like a river. And you just like slip and slide. It's sort of like the show Wipeout.
Oh,
Yeah.
Cool.
Which was fun. There was a bunch of little kids there, but we went with like a group of friends I had from since primary school. I use muscles I have not used in a very long time.
Nice.
Yeah, like I'm still in pain. That was on Sunday and today's Thursday.
Oh, wow. That's a long time.
Yeah.
That sounds like you pulled muscles.
Not that kind of pain though. It's not like I can't move pain. It's just like sore, like tender. It feels like it's really interesting pain. It feels like old person pain. What I imagine, not ageist, but like what I imagine.
You are such an ageist.
It's what I imagine like the pain of, like when you're
Of an elderly person.
kind of like
person
it's one of those pains where I can
later
tell
in life.
I feel like I'm old because I definitely haven't used those muscles since I was a kid. Like climbing, and because I slipped and slided everywhere and fell.
Yeah, I definitely haven't slipped and slided in a while. Actually, that's not true. I went to Wet n Wild not long ago.
It's fun, and you don't realize you're injuring yourself. Well, not injuring, but you don't realize how much you're moving and how many muscles you're using, like while you're in amongst it, and how much you're falling until the day after, where you're like, oh, that's probably why that feels like that.
Do you like the sensation of free falling?
Free falling. I don't think so. I feel like no, I don't think so. Because in my dreams, when I free fall,
and you do the wake up.
Yeah, when
One of
I
those?
free fall in my dreams, I'm like, it's a feeling. Like I don't feel
no
very
good.
Yeah, not good. It's not what I imagine a nice free fall to be like. Is, you know, in Spy Kids when they fall down the volcano?
Yes.
And they're talking to each other?
Yeah.
I imagine if like a volcano falling dream in my dreams was like that, it'd be nice. But mine are usually like sudden and they end.
Yeah, but I'm talking about in real life.
Oh, in real life, I guess I'm never really falling freely like that. I'm more like planking on the ground, like.
Yeah, but you say you were falling. Say jumping in a pool of a 3-meter board. Do you like the feeling of as you're dropping in the air to the pool? So you don't like free falling?
I guess not. No, I went down a really big slide, and that free fall. I like the exhilaration, but like, nah, my stomach goes into my mouth. I'm like reenacting it right now, and I'm like, nah.
Yeah, so you don't like that feeling.
It takes me a while to build the courage to do it, but after I've done it, that feeling afterwards, I like.
Like I did it type thing.
More like a adrenaline rush. I love
like,
the adrenaline.
Let's do that again.
But then I'm like, but I'm still too scared to. But like, you know.
Okay.
Yeah,
I understand what you're saying.
Yeah, I feel like maybe I'm not a free faller.
No.
Are you a free faller?
Hell no. I can say that pretty confidently. One time I was on an airplane.
Yeah.
And the turbulence was so bad.
Oh, I was like, what happened on this
airplane? We just fell from the sky.
Oh, yes.
And I lived to tell the tale. I was flying home from Hawaii. And we had such a bad bit of turbulence, but there was a 5-second thing where it felt like it wasn't the normal turbulence. It was falling out of the sky.
Oh, it was like a drop?
It was a drop.
Ooh.
And I actually think all of my bones went in my mouth. My skin left, but my skeleton stayed in the airplane. That's what happened.
Style.
That's how it felt. Cartoon style. Roadrunner style, my friend.
Yeah.
I hated that. And I swore to my enemies and the enemies of my enemies who are my friends that I would never want to experience that feeling again.
That's fair. Turbulence is scary. I think Anna Paul's explanation of turbulence with the jelly.
With the jelly and you're shaking. If that's shaking, you're shaky, but you're in the thingy.
It's really given me peace.
Yeah.
It's given me peace. I've gone on a fair few plane rides since watching that, and I'm like, oh, I know what's happening. I feel okay.
Yeah.
But when it drops like that, it doesn't feel like shaky. It doesn't feel
shaking. That is like, we're going to die
Like,
say your prayers.
Grab your things.
Yes.
Or whatever the masky thing is.
Yes.
I feel bad because I always fall asleep straight away on the airplane and I miss their little safety instructions every time.
Oh, and they work hard on those.
They work hard. I look forward to seeing them, but I'm always asleep before it happens. Like, I like when they move, the way they move their hands.
Ah, yes, and
They're
the belt.
so delicate with the belt, yes. That's an art.
Pull that thing, pull this thing.
Yeah, they do it
Tighten
so well.
This thing. On the whistle.
Yes, I love that part.
Yeah.
I think like it's a underrated talent, that thing.
I like to watch and pay attention, but show them I'm paying attention. Like, I nod.
Yes.
Gosh.
You take the headphones out.
Yes, and I'm giving them hard eye contact.
Oh, that's scary.
Hard eye contact, no blinking. So they're like, this girl understands.
She knows how serious.
And she's listening to what we're saying.
Oh,
and I'm like, and I say that out loud. Ah, yes, I understand. It's going red.
I noticed. I was like, oh, she's getting really into it.
I've got a fever again.
I would agree. I think it's a really, really enjoyable part of the plane process.
Yeah.
That I miss because I'm asleep. But when I do tend to catch it, or when I used to catch it all the time, I love the show.
It's a great show.
Yeah, it's a great show.
Pre-flight entertainment.
I'd say so. Especially because a lot of airplanes don't even have in-flight entertainment anymore. Like, when I went to Perth recently, I flied with Virgin. I've flown with Virgin to Perth in the past. I had a little TV. I didn't have no TV this time.
Don't think I've flown domestic with a TV.
Really?
Yeah.
Really?
Really?
Really? I swear I've had the TV before on a domestic flight.
Maybe you're in a fancy,
I'm not
fancy plane.
I am a poor
with
girl.
The fancy people.
Oh, I wish.
Yes.
I remember the first time I went to Perth with Mum. Oh, I was clutching on to my love heart pillow, which is like my
pearls.
safety. Yeah, I was like, this is before like most of my overseas travel, so I was like very still like about planes.
Yeah.
But it smoothed itself
Hoya.
out. Hoya.
Hoya. Hoya. Have you seen those TikToks?
I just know that
where they go into random places and they're like, Hoya. I hate it. I actually hate it.
Why?
It makes me uncomfortable.
It does make me uncomfortable too. I think that's why people do it. Because it's just like an uncomfy...
Yeah, but I don't like feeling uncomfortable. Didn't we just discuss that?
When?
Like free falling.
Like free falling.
My foot's stuck on the cable.
I can see it. I'm choking. I can't. Side note from the free falling.
Yeah.
Why do we keep getting unwell at the same times, but not the same sickness?
No, you know what? It's you and my son Mario.
Yeah.
You two have a connection that I don't know about.
Don't say that. Take that out.
That's horrible. I'm so sorry. I didn't mean it that way. I just meant it that you guys get sick at the same time every time.
We really do.
Yes.
We have we're on like some like psychic level.
As soon as you tell me that you're not feeling well, I'm like, shit.
Maybe Mario hears me say that to you, or hears like you tell your partner, oh, Elle's sick. And then he's like, Auntie Elle, she's unwell. I have to be there with her.
Yes.
And so he makes
She's so
himself...
cool. I want to be like her.
Yeah,
and
he
then
makes
he gets a
himself
fever.
sick.
And he acts how I acted before with the in-flight entertainment and gives himself fever.
Gives yourself a favor,
Yeah.
He's just like, I gotta work myself up. I gotta work myself up to be like Auntie Elle.
Yeah.
And then he gets a fever. He gets over it within a couple of days, and then you cop the remains of the
And then
sickness.
I cop it. That's the thing. That's the thing about having these kids.
Yeah.
They get sick. I mean, this is a good thing. But they get sick. He's sick for 12 hours.
Yeah.
Barely ever more than 12 hours. I swear to God.
That's so cool.
Not really. It's a 24-hour thing usually for him, right?
Yeah.
But then when I get it, I'm out for 10 fucking days.
Yeah, you cop a cold and you cop it bad.
I cop it. I don't cop colds often, Elle. Mm-hmm. But when I do, I cop them bad. I saw a TikTok.
Yeah.
Remember when I said that I wasn't on TikTok anymore? Lol,
Yeah.
that was a long time ago.
That was
anyway.
also lasted like, what, a week?
Yeah. Well, it actually lasted a bit, but that's besides the point. I'm back on it. I saw a TikTok where someone was talking about their childhood childhood crushes,
Yeah.
but they were embarrassed because it was like little emo boys that they were
like Pete
crushing
Wentz.
on.
Yeah.
Yes.
I think I saw the same
Pete
video.
Wentz. That's exactly
Yeah.
the one I'm talking about, right?
Pete Wentz.
Pete Wentz, right?
Yeah.
And I just wanted to ask you, because I think about my own childhood crushes and it makes me laugh. So I just want to know, Elle, tell me your childhood celebrity crushes.
Celebrity crushes.
Or fictional characters.
I was just about to say, I'm like, fictional characters probably more like
Yes,
right.
accurate.
Because if I'm thinking like childhood, the crush I had on Kovu from Lion King
I
2.
freaking love that.
Oh, he's just such a handsome lion.
I
And he
just-
has a good heart.
I just love,
He picks his partner over his mum. It's such a beautiful thing.
I just love that your crush is on a fictional character who is a cartoon and not even a human.
Because he
It's
has
not
an
even like-
essence of human.
It's not even like Beast, who is a human stuck in a beast
Or
form.
Fiona as
No,
a
Fiona.
ogre. Yeah, as
Fiona.
an ogre, but also a princess. But no, Kovu. Kovu really just top tier.
He's very cute. He's
And
very
you know what? Eric from Little Mermaid.
Ah, what a stud.
Such a stud. Such a great word.
Yeah.
Definitely a stud.
Yeah.
Who else? There's someone else. Why is Hades coming to mind?
Hades, as in from Hercules?
Yes, but I don't know why. I don't think it's a crush per se, but there's just like, I look at him for a bit. I can think of him. I think of him often.
How often?
Pretty often. I'm going to say like maybe weekly. He
Wow.
may be my Roman Empire.
Very interesting.
Yeah. I don't know why I think of him. I just really like that his hair is flames. Blue flames.
Blue flames. He's
Yeah.
icy.
But I also
Oh,
think
fire.
about Meg just as often, maybe,
Meg. Oh, yeah.
from Hercules.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I get it.
Yeah, I always think about her weak
Yeah.
ankles.
Yeah. I get that.
Yeah.
If I'm going to talk cartoon,
Yeah.
or animation, I should say,
Mm-hmm.
I feel that Lightning McQueen is sexy as hell.
Oh, ka-chow.
Ka-chow. I've said
cute.
this to you before, but when he revs that engine, he revs my engine.
Sometimes you say things and my instant reaction is cringe laugh. Like, I'm like, oh.
Do I make you cringe?
Yes, you make me cringe, baby.
Baby. But come on, when he revs, though, it's like,
Oh, he's-
damn.
Oh, where he gets
My
his new
nether
wheels and they're
regions.
white? So cute.
Yes. I get the tingles.
Who else?
Well, can I tell you some of my
Yeah.
childhood crushes?
So Lightning McQueen.
Lightning McQueen.
Mm-hmm.
He's very sexy. My biggest childhood crush, and I remember because I had his face on a pencil case in like grade 2 or grade 3, but it was Aragorn from Lord of the Rings.
You have mentioned.
God, he's sexy as hell. He is sexy as hell.
Is Aragorn Elijah Wood? No.
No,
Okay, I don't
that's
know.
Frodo.
I don't watch the
Frodo Baggins. No, Aragorn.
Ooh. Freddie from School of Rock.
Oh, yep.
Rest in peace.
Yep.
But
Oh, yes. Rest in peace. You're right.
yeah, but something about the way he held those drumsticks. Nothing's more sexy than a drummer.
With the spiky hair.
Yeah. The way his tie was like barely a school tie. Cool kid.
So, like, loose.
Yeah.
The rolled up sleeves. The
Yeah.
spiky hair.
It was the rolled up sleeves. I love a rolled up sleeve for everyone.
Oof.
Yes, oof indeed.
Oof.
Who else did I have a childhood crush on?
Is it weird talking about him like that now?
Because he's passed.
Because he's a child in that movie? And we're like, oof, to that now? Oh, we're speaking to our previous selves.
Speaking to my previous self, but I don't know.
But
But I'm imagining an older version of the same thing. I'm like, hey.
hey.
Yeah, hey.
Hubba hubba.
Ooh. I feel like
Samwise Gamgee.
Who's that?
He's from Lord of the Rings.
I'm missing all these references. Every time you mention Lord of the Rings, I'm
But he's so
like gobsmacked of dumbness.
faithful, and it's Sean Astin is his real name.
Yeah.
And he is Drew Barrymore's brother in 50 First Dates.
Oh my god, I love him.
Yeah. So he's in Lord of the
With
Rings.
the titty dance.
Yes.
Yeah. The netted top.
Yeah.
I love that guy.
Yeah. With his wet dreams.
Oh my god,
Remember?
yes.
Yeah.
That's so good.
Yeah.
He's in something else.
Well, I'd say Lord of the Rings is the biggest thing.
Yeah, 51st Days. There's something
Samwise.
else I can think of, but I don't know. Oh, let me find him. The guy from Rat Race that I love. I always forget his name.
Oh, the guy from Rat Race. Yeah, you loved him.
I really had a crush on him when I was younger. He's
Yeah.
like the only older gentleman why do I always say older gentleman?
Gentleman.
Yeah, he's the only...
He was probably like our age now.
Yeah, maybe.
Probably not.
Brecken Mayer.
Brecken?
His
name is Brecken?
I don't know if that's how you say his name, but Brecken Mayer, I'll post the photo
Mayer.
or some shit. Brecken Mayer just, I don't know. I found him so attractive when I was younger. Was really, really into him. I don't know what it is about him though.
How young are we talking here?
I think from the first time I watched Rat Race. So when did Rat Race come out? 2001, so I was 6.
I love it. How can I judge you when my next childhood crush was Rocky?
Ooh, but Rocky, I see that.
He was sexy. He's sexy, man.
He was a cool fella.
Yeah, but he was so sweet, and he'd walk around with the leather and the hat and the bouncy ball and bounce the balls, and he'd go to beat up people on the street for money because that was his job, but he couldn't. He didn't want to do it.
See, when I think of him, I think of him in Spy Kids 3 when he was like,
That one.
exactly.
That's
And
George
that's what I
Clooney,
see-
though.
Is it?
It's George Clooney,
But
but he turns into Sylvester Stallone.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, it's all
Spy
the same.
Kids 3D, guys. Watch it.
Yes, watch
Classic.
it. It is a classic.
Yeah.
I don't know who else? There's someone else.
Those were my main ones. I mean, like, as you get into my adolescence, you get the usual, like the standard ones, like Johnny Depp.
Oh, Johnny Depp is cute. I wouldn't say I
He
had a
was
crush
cute.
on him. Yeah,
He
I really
has a
liked
place in my heart.
my heart. Yeah, I really liked Aaron Carter when I was younger.
Yes, I know that.
But I guess that he is the same vibe as Freddie from School of Rock.
Yeah,
I see that.
Definitely same vibe. You know who I have a crush on now?
Who?
Jay from Modern Family. Ed O'Neill.
Oh, he's a cutie.
I freaking love him. I get it. I'm just saying.
Yeah, you
I
see the
get
appeal
it.
why Gloria's with him.
I get why Gloria's with him. I get it.
He does seem like he's got a good heart.
He's got his character development is the best I have seen in a show, like in a sitcom type show.
I like that.
He's got the best character development.
I like that. He has a lot of
Yeah.
phases in there.
Out of all the characters on that show, when they have their serious moments, as soon as Jay has a serious moment, I'm in tears.
Yeah, I tend to cry.
In
with him.
tears.
Sebastian the crab. Or lobster, whatever he is. I just
Why?
really,
What was the appeal?
the way he sung. Like,
Under the sea.
yeah, he was just
Under the sea.
like, I don't know. Everything about the Little Mermaid was very appealing to me.
Was it Ariel?
Oh, yeah, I think it's
Ariel. Because you basically said your name with the Ari in front of it.
Yeah. You know who else? Benny the Jet Rodriguez from The Sandlot, which
I've never seen that.
it's one of my favorite movies. I had a big crush on that boy.
See, it's funny that you had a crush on the crab. Mm-hmm. Whereas I was more of a King Trident person.
Oh, King Trident's very cool, but I'm not into King Trident like that.
Yeah, but he was sexy. Cannot deny.
Well, that's why he had so many daughters.
He had them. Oh, true.
What
True.
was his wife? Was she in that movie?
Something happened with Ursula, I'm guessing.
Oh, yeah.
And that's why he banished her.
Mm.
She was banished.
Yes. I don't watch
I'm
Little Mermaid in
assuming.
a while.
I have no idea, though. It's been a long time since I've
It's
seen
been a
it.
long time. There is someone similar to Kovu and I can't put my finger on
Was it Simba in Lion King 2? Because his sex appeal goes up in the Lion King 2.
Nah, Kovu always
Yeah,
had my
because
heart.
he's like, especially the part where Kovu's been banished from Pride Rock.
Oh,
And
deception.
that one part when he looks a bit angry, he looks really good there.
Maybe because he turns into a dad, you suddenly find him more attractive. Where for me, I'm like, nah.
Maybe because he
Kovu.
seems older.
Maybe.
And it's no secret that you like the younger man and I like the older man.
Yeah, it's true. We always tend to fall back into that pattern.
Yeah.
There is someone else. Mike Wazowski? No. Who is it?
Mike Wazowski.
I'm just
Put
thinking.
that thing where right back. Okay, also help me.
So help me.
So help me. So help me. And cut.
I used to say that all the time, and cut.
All right, well, shall we move on to what this episode is actually about?
I think we should. We got the chance to interview Stephen Tobolowsky. You can't not recognize this man.
No, you really can't.
If you're only listening to this podcast, go and find a picture. Google.
Yes.
Because once you see the face, you'll be like, oh my God, he is in everything.
He is in everything. Well, he's got one of the most credits for acting. So he's in a lot of things. You may recognize him from Groundhog Day. He plays the insurance salesman, Ned.
Ah, yes.
Who Bill Murray, I think they went to school together or something.
Ned, it's me, Ned.
He plays in so many things.
He is in the Goldbergs,
He's in the Goldbergs.
I love him there.
He's in an episode of Will and Grace.
He is. He's in One Day at a Time.
One Day at a Time. He's the villain in Garfield.
Ah, he is too.
Yes.
He's also in Mean Girls?
In
No.
Mean Girls.
Freaky Friday.
He's in Freaky Friday.
Yes.
Oh my God. He's in so many things. He's also in movies like Mississippi Burning.
So, he's in Country Bears.
Country Bears.
Country Bears as a credit wins my heart over.
Yes.
Country Bears was like everything to me as a kid.
For sure.
Yes.
Anyway, we were just so honoured that Stephen took time out of his schedule, his life, to actually give us an hour of his time.
Yeah.
So we're just so thankful to Stephen. Thank you so much. We really love you. Before we talk to Stephen, we must ask you a few things. Now, if you could please follow the podcast at all major podcast platforms and our social media.
Please.
Yeah.
And if you like what you're listening to, please rate us a 5 out of 5.
5 out of 5.
It helps.
It helps. And tell a friend. Guys, tell a friend. We really appreciate it. All right, we'll be right back with Stephen.
Yeah, and what time is it for you there?
It's midday, so 12 o'clock in the afternoon.
Oh.
Yeah.
Piece of cake.
I know.
That's easy.
It worked out very well for us.
And it's just martini time for me. So,
Perfect.
Do you have the martini there?
no, just water.
We just want to say that we've been watching you for years, and this is very exciting for us.
It's
We've
very
been big
surreal
fans.
for us. We're very excited.
Oh, well, that's good. I hope it's surreal good and not surreal bad.
Either way, as long as it's surreal.
Yes.
Stephen, I just want to know what drew you to the entertainment industry.
Boy, now that's a complicated question. I'll start with kind of a peripheral answer.
Okay.
In that whatever it was, it happened to me very early in life. Because I grew up in Oak Cliff, which I imagine is a little like the outback in Australia.
Right, very
wild
rural.
and untamed, poisonous snakes, poisonous spiders.
Wow.
Not very populated, a lot of woods and that kind of stuff. And all of my friends wanted to play games like let's light the ants on fire. Things like that.
Right.
Or, let's do things like that. And I say, why don't we play making movies? Now, I had to have been like 5, 6, 7. I was going like, let's play making movies. And they said, well, how do we play making movies? I said, well, it's the same as Cowboys and Indians, except we're making a movie of it.
Yeah, exactly. We're doing this as well.
So, I would sword fight with myself, I'd fight myself and pretend I was on the edge of a cliff. Always as a kid, I was doing things. And the only thing I can think in retrospect, and I don't know if it's true, is because I wanted to be someone who had adventures. And I thought that people in movies had adventures, whereas people like my father, who was a doctor, did not have adventures. So I wanted to have adventures in my life, thinking that that would be a good thing. So I think that's where the impulse started, I think.
That's beautiful. Beautiful insight to have as a child.
Yeah.
Like to be able to witness and learn from like your parents in that way as well, and see what like they harness and what like I'm wanting to harness that's maybe different to what they harnessed in life.
Yeah, my brother was a great athlete. He was terrific in every sport. And so in a way there could have been that sibling rivalry in that I did not want to compete against him in sports because he could beat me in everything. and I didn't want to feel like a loser. and so, I wanted to do something different. So I remember I was in a play contest, and I want to say I was something, again, like 7 or 8 years old, and they had different age categories of plays at the summer parks here in Texas. I'm in LA now, but when I was a child in Texas, they had ages. So I was in the Pee Wee division. So Pee Wee division was less than like 10 years old and under. So I know I was very young because my bedtime was 8 o'clock. And we did the play Hansel and Gretel. And I had to kiss Marcia Housewright on the forehead. And let me tell you, I was it was the first time I ever kissed a girl that wasn't like my mother or my sister or my aunt or something. It was like kissing a girl my own age. And let me tell you, it was so hot. It was, I kissed her forehead and my heart was beating so hard.
My gosh.
However, I had to be in bed by 8 o'clock. And so these plays were done outside. So they waited for the sun to go down, and then they started the plays under bright lights. And so I was not there for the awards assembly, but my Aunt Esther from Pennsylvania was visiting. And while Mom took me home, Aunt Esther stayed, and she came back and said, I won second place in the Pee Wee Division Best Actor Award. So I've always wondered, who won first place in Pee Wee Division Best? Whatever happened to him? Did he become a policeman or a cop or a doctor? What happened to that guy? But that was when I was very young. And I think I did more plays in junior high school. I did Wilbur Takes His Medicine. That's a great classic here. All these kids' plays, they all have weird names. And then I was in the junior, and this was significant. I was in the junior division of plays, which means 13 and 14 years of it. I had just turned 13. It was like my 13th birthday. And we did, in fact, win first place in the junior division. And I did, in fact, win Best Actor of the junior division. However, we had a good show party in a neighbor's yard. And I ate watermelon and ice cream and all that, Coca-Cola and all that sort of stuff. And that night, I got incredibly ill.
Oh, no.
And I was sick for 2 years.
2 years?
What?
I wasn't expecting
2
this.
years. I was sick for 2 years. My mother and father were terrified. They thought I had cancer. I kept losing weight. Over this period of time, I lost about 50 pounds. Over the 2 years, and now I'm going 12, 13, 14 years of age. I'm in junior high school, and the doctor said I'm not allowed to play. So I had to go to study halls. I don't know if you have study halls in Australia, but this is just where you go and people throw spit wads at one another. It's waste of time. But we had books in our study hall, and they had the complete set of Shakespeare. So I pulled down a volume. It said King Lear. And I started reading King Lear, had no idea what I was reading, no idea at all. And then there was one line in it from, I think the character's name was Albany. And he said, "Who is it that can say this is the worst?" And I thought of that line and I go, that's my life. I went from this kid who could play to this kid that can't play, to this kid who's losing weight, to parents are crying thinking that I have cancer. Am I dying? What is happening to me at this age? Who is it that could? And I fell in love with Shakespeare at that particular time. And so I began reading plays of Shakespeare. And just about on my 15th birthday, so I was sick for about 3 years. On my 15th birthday, we went to a new doctor. They were taking me to all sorts of, I went to a new doctor and they gave me a medicine that is no longer allowed in the United States. It was called Pafabamate 500. And I think it was an anti-seizure medication for epileptics, something like that. Now they sell it in Europe, I think. I think they sell it in Germany. But the doctor started giving me this medicine, and I was healed in a week.
What? That's
Like
so
in a
bizarre.
week, I suddenly got better, and I thought, it's a miracle, and the thing I want to do more than anything else is be an actor. And so all I did from that point on was act in plays at school and enter in speech tournaments, do debate in school. That was my deal in high school. And I went on to SMU, Southern Methodist University in Dallas, and majored in theater and got my degree, that kind of thing.
Wow, that is so bizarre. So to this day, you don't know what your problem actually was.
No, I don't. And what had happened was, I guess, maybe it was something like Crohn's disease or something like that. Like what the doctor said, for some reason, I had lost the lining of my intestine.
Yeah.
And so I couldn't eat. And if I ate or did anything wrong, I would just start bleeding internally.
Wow.
Oh my God.
And that's why it was awful. It was awful. It was terrible. And, it was the calamity that kind of made me. It was the kind of calamity said, well, at least this isn't worse than that. Every event I've been in since then has been better than those better than those 3 years.
Yeah.
That was pretty bad.
Gosh, that's what a terrible thing for a kid to go through. You would have been forced to grow up so quickly.
Yeah. And to deal with, like I say, to hear your mother crying in bed at night. It was terrible. It was terrible. My father was so scared. It was just an awful time. Awful time.
Yeah, I can just imagine, like, knowing that you have to take on that emotional responsibility. Like, you don't know how to control the situation, but you know that you're causing, whatever's going on is causing other people so much sorrow as well. That's mentally, that would have been very, very taxing on you. But at the same time, like you just said, it was the worst moments of your life, but it also made you who you are sort of now and built you into being so. Like, do you find that once you did get better, you felt like, what is the point of me holding back from doing anything I feel like doing? Because...
Bing, absolutely. 100%. Once you did that, you think like, well, I'm not going to let this other thing stop me. I'm going to go for what I want, and I'm going to continue.
Yeah.
Yes, you are correct.
Yeah, I love that.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
You mentioned before that as a child you wanted to go on adventures and actors had adventures. Would you say that if you looked at that little kid version of yourself now, they would be fulfilled in the adventures that you had?
Yeah. Over 200 movies. Like, you are that actor.
Little did I know that the people who are in movies have no adventures at all. We spend our life in a trailer.
Yes.
A stuntmen have to do all the falls and the jumps. You just stay in the trailer and you read a book, and then they go, Stephen, we're ready for you. And then you come out, you do your little thing, and then you go back to the trailer. But sometimes like I did a movie in Thailand. So, that was an adventure. And I got to go to New Zealand. Haven't gone to Australia yet. But I got to do a movie in Brazil, so you have those kind of adventures, but then you just kind of stay in the hotel room and try not to drink the water.
Yes.
That's kind of what you do.
Like, I need to brush my teeth, but do I do it with that water or do I buy a bottle of water? Like,
Yeah, in Thailand, we were in Bangkok for 3 days, but then we went out into the jungle to Rayong, and I had a hotel room that had a concrete floor with a drain in the middle of it.
Oh my God.
So it's like, what is that for? and then they give you this sheet of paper about things to avoid here. And one of the things was, do not drink the water, and if you take a shower, and I love the fact that they put if at the beginning of that sentence. If, I'm going to be there for 3 weeks. If you take a shower, Do not let water get into your eyes, ears, nose, or mouth.
How do you do that?
That's just
You do it by not getting your by living
By
in
not
terror.
showering.
No, I think I got a drop of water in my eye. Because the water in Thailand had diphtheria in it.
Yes. Oh my
So
god.
you could catch diphtheria from taking a shower.
Jesus.
so
Heaven
scary.
help us.
Man, just wipes. That's it. That's what I would have been doing. How terrifying. That's an adventure.
I took a walk. I remember I said, well, damn it, I'm in this jungle, middle of the jungle. I'm going to take a little walk outside the hotel just to see what it's like in the jungle. And I start going out, and the woman behind the desk, sir, said, sir, mind the cobras.
Oh, Lord.
And I went, okay, maybe I won't go. So I just sat in the lobby. But the thing that was great in this jungle place in Thailand is they had regular television on the screens, but the commercials were all Thai commercials and for people who live in the jungle. So let's say they did, a commercial for Tide, how you always have to hold the detergent like, I love Tide. So the lady is wearing like this sarong or something, and her hair is tied up. And so I hear this Thai talking, and she's pointing to the detergent. Then it cuts to a scene of her kneeling by a river with the clothes and putting Tide into the river and pounding the clothes on the rocks. And then Nate, doing the clothespins, outside of her house. I go like, no washing machines there.
Yeah,
but they're
you've gotta be
putting Tide in the
realistic.
river.
Yeah. You've got to be realistic because that's how they'd probably be using it, I guess.
That's how they're doing it.
Wow.
Yeah.
Isn't it crazy to think that, on certain sides of the world, we're so out of touch with what could be, only a few hours away by plane.
That's so true.
It's amazing. It's amazing. You go there and you're like, oh my goodness. For example, you go to Australia. I only know this by rumor that everything there is poisonous.
Yeah.
You got the poisonous snakes, the bugs, the lizards, and everything. But if you go to New Zealand, nothing in New Zealand is poisonous. Nothing.
Yes. Wow.
So you got all the poisonous
Yeah, we
stuff
did.
there, and in New Zealand, they're all safe.
Yeah.
That's why everybody in New Zealand walks with flip-flops everywhere.
Yeah. They do here too.
They
feel
do
safe.
here too. We just have no sense of fear here.
Just common everyday life.
Yeah,
now.
if I let my grass grow too long at my house, my dad's like, you're going to get snakes. Cut your grass.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's
yes.
just, I guess
There
it
you-
is.
You're going to get snakes.
You're going to get them. Cut it.
Yeah, it's sort of like the cobra thing. You can go for the walk, but you're going to see a cobra.
Yeah.
Just be careful.
Just, yeah. And because we're Aussies, we're like, I was about to say swear, but fuck it.
Want to talk to you about, because you specify sort of in character acting, correct?
Well, the character actor is just somebody who's not handsome enough to kiss the leading lady.
Oh,
So
don't
it's
say
like,
that.
no, it's okay. It's done well by me. But I'm just saying it's usually somebody who's not a leading man. I need glasses, I'm bald, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Those are usually the character actors. They're the ones who live next door. Those are the ones who are the defense attorneys. Those are good parts.
Insurance salesman.
Those are the ones that are like the lunatics,
Yes.
insurance salesmen. Yeah, you get to be the character guy.
Yeah.
So there's nothing wrong with that. It just means that you are a supporting element to the film rather than carrying the central plot of the film.
We were watching a video of you the other day of you explaining that a story about how you were waiting for your ride, and then someone perceived you as a taxi driver, then someone else perceived you as a pilot, and it's so true. Because
such a good
you can
story.
kind of merge into it was such a good story.
Yeah.
We're both just this is fascinating, but it's just so interesting how it's so true. You can, when you are in a role like that, people forget that those roles are it's such a special form of acting, in my opinion, because when you play the principal in Goldbergs, for example, I see you as that principal.
Yes.
You are that man. And then when I see you in One Day at a Time, I see you in a whole totally different sort of way, but I forget that you even were the principal in the other one in that moment.
Yes. I think what it is when you look at a script, you have to kind of see what lane you're in. And if you're doing comedy, you have to kind of figure out what type of comedy you're doing and that also defines what lane you're in. So when you're a leading man, you usually don't have to think of those things. Usually you're just the guy who wants to get the girl, or you're the guy who has the girl and you have kids and you want to raise the kid. You know, it's already been established. When you're a character guy, you have to see, how can I best facilitate the story I'm in?
Do you build yourself, like when you get those kind of, like those parts, do you create that background of that character for yourself most of the time? Like, what's your like method of getting into that zone for yourself?
I had a great teacher. Dear Ed K. Martin, who is no more, but let me tell you, genius. He said, whenever you work on any part, you ask yourselves two questions. What is my greatest hope? And what is my greatest fear? And everything that you do as an actor in that role will come from the answer of those two questions. Like even the job you have. Like, let's say you're a mailman and you don't know what a mailman is. Well, certainly Stanislavski would say, well, what you do is you could go to the post office and follow a mailman around for a week if you want. Or you could read and see what a mailman has to do. You could learn those things. Or you can ask yourself, what is my greatest hope as a mailman? What is my greatest fear as a mailman? And it will fill in a lot of blanks that you wouldn't fill in otherwise. So those questions help a lot. And also, you need to know what you're talking about. So if you're in a science fiction film and you've got a lot of gobbledygook to talk about, you still have to find a basis for the gobbledygook. You know, you still have to find what it is you're really talking about. And I find audiences appreciate truth. They appreciate that, and they can smell a lie a million miles away. So in whatever role you have, you try to build up your blocks of what is true about my life as this character, what makes a good day, what makes a bad day. You just create, Stanislavski would say, the 24-hour life of your character. So you try to put that together, what my day is, and then you kind of understand what your character is. One thing I've started to do lately is sometimes in scripts I find like one line, one sentence or something which completely describes my character in what I'm saying. Like in Groundhog Day, when Bill buys all that insurance from me, and I go, this is the greatest day of my life. Which says not only I don't have tons of great days in my life, but this particular day is the best day of my life. And then it also reflects on the movie Groundhog Day, which is the same day repeated. That we have a choice of making our day the greatest day in our life or not. And that's kind of what the story of Groundhog Day is making the right choices to make every day the greatest day of your life.
I've seen Groundhog Day so many times. I don't know if I've actually thought about it in that direct way.
Well, I think Danny Rubin and Harold Ramis used Elizabeth Kubler-Ross. Is that her name? Elizabeth Kubler-Ross, someone who knows more than me, you'll have to Google that name. And she wrote The 5 Stages of Death and Dying. And it's how people who have family that are in the condition that they are terminal or whatever, how you can identify what the stages, what happens when you die. The first is denial, and then there's anger and revolt, and then the person accepts, and then, you know, she's laid it out 5 steps. And so in Groundhog Day, Harold Ramis and Danny Rubin tried to give Bill Murray the 5 steps of death and denial. Like, first of all, Bill is disbelief that the day has been repeating. Then he has anger that the day is repeating. Then he kind of joins in. He acquiesces and makes fun of it. And then eventually he accepts. and just embrace it. That's the formula they used in that movie.
I love that people put that, but like, it's funny as a viewer, you just take the movie for what it's for, or like a TV show for what it's for, but there's so much thought that goes in the background of it, and so much meaning behind every small like line, every small decision that creates that story. That's actually, it's very I don't know if it's the right word, but like, I feel very hopeful. Like, it makes me feel like restored faith in humanity when you realize that the thing that you might do in your spare time that kind of distracts you in life, like watching a TV or movie, has meaning still. And that there's people that are creating that with a sense of meaning because they're focusing on like real things in life at the same time to teach you. It's sort of like music for me. Like, I find that like I appreciate a song more when I know that it's written for a specific purpose. And so like now it kind of restores my faith that like other people are grounded and are feeling life and are living in the present moment too. And so it's kind of nice.
Can I bring up an example that I learned through classical music? That's exactly what you're talking about. And it's a song everybody knows, Beethoven's first movement of Moonlight Sonata, right? We all know that song. So when that song came out, when that sonata, first of all, it was a hit. It was a hit the moment he played it. It was one of the pieces he sat down, and everybody went nuts when they heard it. The first people who wrote about it said that this was a song that Beethoven wrote when he was giving piano lessons to a 15 or 16-year-old Italian countessa on the banks of Lake Lucerne, and he took her out on the boat in midnight after that she gave piano lessons, and he took her out on the boat in this romantic thing under the moonlight. Of course, now 16 years old, he'd probably be in jail.
Yeah, so I'm like romanticizing it, and then I'm like, wait a second.
Yeah. Well, that was the story.
Yeah.
That is the story. And if you go into the Grove Musical Encyclopedia, you will see that story. However, there is another story, and that is in Beethoven's diary. Beethoven talks about the impetus for writing the Moonlight Sonata, and that is that he was sitting at the bedside of a friend of his who was dying. And it is the musical description of the final breath leaving the body. And if you listen to the Moonlight Sonata, the first movement, you hear it. Do, 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 do. And dum, da, dum. Okay, then you have that story. Then there's one more story. William Kinderman, who now is, I think, one of the chief professors of piano out here at UCLA, but I took a class with him in New York at Carnegie Hall in the Beethoven sonatas. William Kinderman had a whole other theory that in other writings of Beethoven was a very messy man. He was very ornery, very messy, and he never liked to clean up his room. So what he would always do is, instead of cleaning up, his place would just get filled with trash and old food and all that stuff, and then he would just move. He would just move to another apartment in Bonn, Germany. And so one of these apartments he moved to happened to be very close to the tower, the clock tower in the center of town. And so he had just moved in, had his piano there, and it starts, do, 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 do. Bum, ba, bum, and it's the clock, and the sound do, do, do is the minutes and the seconds from he could hear the clock, bum, ba, bum, bum, ba, bum, and he couldn't go to sleep. And so Beethoven was pedoed, and he got out of bed and he said, I can't stand this damn clock. And he started writing out this, basically an improvisation on insomnia. And so Moonlight Sonata is about the fact that he can't get away from the damn clock. So you have some choices there. You have the princess out on the water, the contessa out on the water. You have breath leaving his friend's body, and you have the clock. And it's true for all of them. but which one is the truth? I have no idea.
I'm going to go with the diary one.
Yeah,
But I feel like...
maybe it depends on how you're feeling in the moment.
Yeah,
sometimes.
maybe it's a bit of everything, all in one.
Maybe a bit of everything. So, but the thing is, in terms of like acting, each one of those would be true.
So true, yes.
Each one of those would be true if you were following the script, which is the song Moonlight Sonata, first movement. If you're following the script, you could say each one of those was researched and true. I could see it as a love story on the water, insomnia, or saying goodbye to a friend.
I love that. It's so true.
I guess that's the wonderment of art, isn't it? It's your own interpretation and how you as a person take in the things around you. So it could mean different things to different people.
Or all at once for the same person, because when you think about it, sometimes a song, for example, can make me feel all those three things all at once because it calls to all different areas of my life as well.
Yeah.
It's beautiful. That's actually beautiful.
But it sometimes depends on the state that you're in when you're listening to it.
Exactly.
Sometimes I've listened to a song 1,000 times, but on that 1,001st time, it hits me in a whole different way.
Yes, and it could be what happened to you that day, or it could have been an experience that happened to you that week that just has taken root in your heart and soul now and has changed you. That's the thing about art. Art not only reports, but it changes. It changes you fundamentally, who you are. When you come in contact with great art, you change. Molecularly, you change. Or at the same time, it could be entertainment. It could just make you feel happy or more connected to yourself in some way, more reflective. But it changes you for sure.
I agree with that wholeheartedly. Like, coincidentally, Goldbergs, for example, is one of the TV shows that I feel like I'm part of that TV show. When I'm watching it, it feels like it's changing my insides because it's like coming home to my own family. And so I get that piece of like, that sensation of like feeling comfort as well as learning, because I'm learning something. Like every episode has its own purpose at the end of it. You find out what the whole, the lesson is at the end of that. And it's like I'm growing and reflecting on myself every single time I'm watching that piece of entertainment.
Now let me ask you a question.
Yes.
So what's the difference between the Goldbergs and Long Day's Journey into Night by Eugene O'Neill? It's a very famous, very serious play that Eugene O'Neill wrote about he is actually the young man in it who has tuberculosis, or he may have to go to this farm with tuberculosis. He has a brother who's a drunk. He has a father who doesn't want to spend any money on him because he feels like if you have tuberculosis, you're dead anyway. And, because this was written back, at the beginning of the 20th century. And so what is the difference between that and the mother who is like, what is it, a morphine addict? She is addicted to not heroin, but she's addicted to some sort of drug. And so the mother's a drug addict, the father is a miser, the brother is a drunk, the kid is dying, perhaps. But of course, we know he didn't because he's the one who wrote the story. Well, what's the difference between the two?
See, for me, I'm seeing only similarities. I'm seeing just similarities because even though the one of them is more set in like a wholesome, let's say, setting, and the other one's more, it's still you putting yourself in that kid's shoes, for example, and seeing the dynamics of a family. And so it still gives you that same family comfort, even if it is more toxic, let's say, because there's always toxic characteristics in each family, in my opinion. But I don't know what the difference would really, besides it being set in a different tone, I suppose. I feel like that's pretty much almost it's a very similar dynamic.
It's a very similar dynamic, and you would say, the difference is, the biggest difference, of course, is one is a very serious tragedy and one is a comedy.
I have a good point. Yeah, one is just like a happy-go-lucky show that you watch. Yeah.
And so what is it that makes one a comedy and one not a comedy?
I wonder what does, like, I think it's just, for some reason, I feel like like we've spoken about other times, I feel like there's multiple things. Like the movie score, for one thing, can make a big difference in how you emotively look at something and how serious you take it. Even the medium, like one of them is a play. So for me personally, I automatically feel like if something's a sitcom, it's made to give you that like wholesome feeling. But if something is made with like in the medium of a play, for example, it's generally, there's definitely comedic plays, but it's generally to be taken much more seriously in my personal viewing experience. But what would you say?
Well, I'll go to Sigmund Freud. Sigmund Freud wrote a book on jokes. He wrote a book on comedy called Jokes and the Unconscious. And he said the difference between comedy and drama is that comedy makes the meaningful meaningless or the meaningless meaningful. And that's the difference. Whereas Long Day's Journey in the Night, the meaningful is meaningful. And if something's meaningless, it is meaningless. But on the Goldbergs, something that's meaningful will be turned into being meaningless, or something meaningless will be turned into being very important. Even to the fact, you have Jeff, the father, who's always in the chair. He's always sitting in his Barcalounger. So here's the father who has to rule the roost. He's always like sitting down in a chair with his legs up. He's always
in his underwear.
Mrs. Goldberg doesn't abide by any of the rules of the school. She comes, I live as the principal of the school. I live in terror of her all the time.
She's breaking your boundaries left, right, and center all the time.
She takes what's meaningful about the school, which is the order of the school, and makes it meaningless, which makes it funny.
Wow, I really like that. I'm going to notice that and think about that.
To be honest, I'm thinking about random shows I watch, like The Office or even Will and Grace, and I can totally see how the meaningless is what's meaningful
also
about
in
the show.
The Office, for example, The Office, they do that documentary style, which is always the clue to be taken seriously.
Yeah.
The filmmakers, that's code for this is like real life. We're watching real life. We're watching real people. We have to take this all very seriously. And then you have The Office, which is, asking Dwight, Dwight saying, he comes in his police uniform and saying, we have to test the urine of everyone in this office. And we're going to test, and it has to be urine. Like a policeman, and we laugh now. And it's because he is a person who does not really have that authority, and he takes it, so he takes the meaningfulness of the uniform and makes it meaningless. Yeah. But he does the urine test that he knows that police do all the time if somebody's been. It's ridiculous. It's hilarious.
I really like that. That's gonna stay with me. I think that sentence, like and I'm gonna interpret, like notice it in everything I watch now.
Yeah, that really is what makes it funny. And I think in that circumstance as well is that the character wholeheartedly agrees with what they're doing. That is the right thing to do. Like for Dwight's case, is that he truly believes that what needs to be done in that moment is to test people's urine. And then Michael's, how he reacts to that is he feels that he has to ask Dwight for his urine. And he feels like that is the right thing to do. And
I did an exercise once looking at The Office and comparing it to Commedia from the 16 and 1700s. What were the characters that were in Commedia comedies in the 1700s, and what are the characters in The Office? And they are the same. They are the same. For example, the leading man is Harlequin. Is usually the character's name is Harlequin, and what that character is a handsome man who doesn't have a lot of money, who is in love with the beautiful, beautiful, innocent girl in the area, and he is a joker. He's a trickster. He plays jokes on other people. It's Jim Halpert is Harlequin. And then you have Doctore, which is the character who pretends they know everything but know nothing. You could say that's Michael, but also you could say it's Dwight to it. And then you have characters called the Zanies, which is definitely Dwight, which is people that just go by their own rules and they're crazy and they don't obey any,
Yeah.
So if you look at comedy that came from Italy, I guess, in the 16 and 1700s, and The Office, it's exactly the same.
How crazy is that, though?
Yeah, it's like a little recipe.
How crazy is that?
It's a recipe for comedy.
If you're going to steal good.
Yeah,
No, they didn't steal that. It's just a coincidence because it works so well.
Exactly.
You sent us your songs via email before. I absolutely loved the notes that you had with each song that you chose. Please go into detail on how each song that you sent, how you connect to it, and just what everything means to you.
Well, I don't have the list in front of me,
That's
so
okay, we'll
you
read
tell
them
me
out.
the
We
song,
have the
and I'll tell you,
list. That's okay.
and I will tell you why that song means so much to me and how it affects me.
Let's start with David Bowie, 5
Yes.
years.
David Bowie, 5 years. And that, to me, is a song that resonates to me powerfully because we always think we have all the time in the world, and we don't. And what happens when we realize the preciousness of the time we have? I could even go further and say at the end of that's the first song of that album. And the last song is Rock and Roll Suicide, which really connects with that, in which the repeated line of that song is "You're not alone." And if you look at 5 years stuck on my eyes, 5 years was a surprise, 5 years my brain hurts a lot, 5 years that's all we got. And it's a song of mourning, and it's a call to action. It's like you have to take today and you have to do what you can, because once they say, the news guy wept when he told us Earth was really dying. He cried so much his face was wet, so I knew he was not lying. I saw telephone, opera house, favorite melodies, boys, toys, electric irons, and TVs. So all the fat, skinny people, all the nobody people, all the somebody people. I never knew there were so many people. That suddenly, when the limit is there, you realize what a wonderful thing your life is and the people around you. I think that's one reason why David Bowie was extraordinary. He and the Beatles. I mean, that they were both so incredibly positive, even in a time where their rock and roll was like Helter Skelter or with, David Bowie had Suffragette City on that album, scary songs. But that is, the time is precious. So look around now and don't take anything for granted on any day. That's what that song does for me.
I love that so much.
I find that really interesting based on the anecdote you told us before about your younger self.
Yeah, I thought
I find it very interesting that song has hit you in that way when you've had that experience.
Yeah. Did that song
You
come
know
through?
I
what
never
that's
even
like.
thought of that. I owe you, El.
Oh,
I
really?
owe you.
Yeah.
I never thought of that, but that could be why that song
I just got goosebumps.
triggered me.
Yeah.
Yes,
It
that was
calls
my
to you.
experience.
Yeah. Because you didn't know how long you had left. It could have just been 5 years for all you knew. That's what your parents were thinking. So I
Yes.
love that so much. When did that song, when you first found that connection to that song, when was that? Was that in your later adult life? Was that when you were younger? When was that?
David Bowie had just become popular in America, and I missed the first few albums, but Ziggy Stardust and the Spiders from Mars got a lot of play when I was in college. So I went out and it was one of those records that I just bought and said, like, well, this guy looks like it's probably going to be crazy music. It's probably going to be nutty music, but I'm going to play it. I put it on and I played it over and over, the whole album over and over and over again. And I thought, like, this guy is a genius. This is incredible. I wonder how much other stuff I've missed.
I love that feeling. It's nothing better than when you find an artist that, like, you never get sick of, because especially an album where you just want to play it on repeat because it's calling to you in so many different ways. I love that.
Yes.
That was a beautiful answer. I think one of my favorites that we've ever had.
Yeah, I agree. Okay, so the next one that you had was, and forgive me for my pronunciation, but Schubert Impromptu in G flat.
Schubert's Impromptu in G flat is one of the most beautiful pieces of solo piano music ever written. It is, you just hear it, and the theme, the beginning of it, will just bring you to tears of beauty, absolute beauty. And then it goes into a very dramatic section after that, which is very heightened drama, and then it goes back to beauty. And the thing about it is, it's not easy to play. There are a lot of notes. And even though the tune kind of comes out of this sea of notes, it instructed me as to how complicated and difficult beauty can be. That it's not something that just falls at your feet and there it is. I mean, sometimes it does, but beauty is difficult, and beauty has to be nurtured and practiced and understood for it to exist. And the thing about Schubert is, I mean, almost nobody wrote tunes like he did. Nobody, even Chopin, Ave Maria is one of his, he's so beautiful. Schubert always admired Beethoven. And apparently Schubert was a short man, very short, small hands, didn't have huge hands like Beethoven. So apparently all of the stuff he did was very fast and close piano work because his hands were so small. And apparently, at least the rumor I heard, Schubert died of syphilis, which is pretty much what did Beethoven in. That Beethoven's deafness was based on syphilis, and they think that he had syphilis too. But Schubert, they said, got syphilis at the same house of prostitution that Beethoven went to, because Schubert wanted to do everything Beethoven did because he wanted to be like Beethoven. He wanted, but that could be complete, but that was just the legend.
Allegedly, yeah.
Yeah, that's so fascinating.
But he died at a very young age, and you think of how many songs he wrote, especially when he knew he was near the end. He wrote so many beautiful songs when he felt his health was waning. It was like he was desperate to get all the beauty in his soul out before he was gone. So if you want to listen to something beautiful, you listen to Impromptu number 3, you listen to Impromptu number 4, you listen to those impromptus, they'll just wipe you out. But that one in G flat or whatever, that one is just, and if you know the piano, you know G flat is a difficult key.
Yeah, it was beautiful. When we listened to it, we were both just sitting there in awe. It was stunning. And then we went on we got it on it stuck on a tangent of wishing we played the piano.
Yes.
And then we started looking up costs of pianos.
I really went on Marketplace and bought a piano based on that song.
Yes.
It's the desperation that you can really feel through music.
Yes.
And it's something that you don't find in a lot of songs, particularly nowadays. But pure desperation and the tingling that comes from your fingers, it has to come from deep within.
Yeah, it really, it truly strikes a chord within, like past just the first layer of your body. Like it goes all the way through, I feel, when it's music like that.
You feel there's a hand reaching out in that song, that it's dun, 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 and the repeated just make you longing.
Yeah.
Yes, it's longing.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
I love it. next mention was Bob Dylan, Blowing in the Wind, which I was very, very happy with this choice. Please elaborate. You told us the simplicity of a perfect statement, which I couldn't agree with more, but I'd love to hear your explanation.
It's so great. This came out at a time when everyone was going like, well, Bob Dylan, he can't sing. This guy can't sing. To such an important point that the same, I think it was Columbia Records, put out Bob Dylan. The Columbia Records also rushed and got Peter, Paul, and Mary together and said, you do a version of Blowing in the Wind too, as well. We want you to do Bob Dylan songs also so people will hear them sung beautifully. And I remember Bruce Springsteen saying when he first heard Bob Dylan and his mother dad said something like, what do you think of that voice? What do you think of what? And Bruce Springsteen was thinking like, oh, he sounds perfect to me. And the thing about it is, when a statement as perfect as that song, how many years must a mountain exist before it's washed to the sea? How many years must some people exist before they're allowed to be free? I mean, it's so simple and so perfect that there is nothing that can touch the perfect statement. And in a way, Bob Dylan's voice is so perfect because you hear that song and you hear those words. And we listen to Peter, Paul, and Mary, which is fabulous. You hear the gorgeous singing and you hear the gorgeous guitar work and the gorgeous harmonies. With Dylan, you don't. You just hear the perfect statement. And so simplicity, when you have found something that is undeniably true and unquestionable, you don't have to doll it up with anything.
No.
You can just say it and it will stand alone.
Plus his voice his voice is perfect. Like, I love that part of his, I'm all for that.
It's raw.
It's, very raw and just like honest. It seems honest and truthful. And all of his music, I've found it, I love that when he sings, and maybe it is because I'm not focusing on any other part, I'm focusing on what he's saying so much that I'm visualizing everything he sings. It's when I listen to Bob Dylan, I'm watching something in my head.
But I guess that's the point, right?
Yeah.
That's the point.
I couldn't agree with you more. And I hear Peter, Paul, and Mary's Blowing in the Wind, which is beautiful. And I go like, I could hear Bob Dylan's right next to it, and I find it a completely different experience in that the Peter, Paul, and Mary, I just have one experience, and that is beauty of poetry and their musicality. But with Bob Dylan, I hear the cry. I hear the cry of truth. This is just so true. How many roads must a man walk down before they call him a man? How many seas must a white dove sail before she sleeps in the sand? I mean, it's so simple. And it's the hardest thing to do in the world is to write something that simple and that beautiful. So a lot of times the most beautiful thing is not the most ornate, but is the simplest statement. So if you have something absolutely true, keep it simple.
Wow. That is really wonderful. Yeah.
Everything you've shared with us today, I'm like, I want to listen to you talk for like the next 5 hours.
I know. I am with you.
Yeah. You should talk to my wife. She would have conflicting opinions.
She's like, I listen to you talk every hour. Beautiful. Oh, we touched on Beethoven a little bit before, but we'll go with the Brandi Carlile, That Wasn't Me, which Brandi Carlile, we've been more introduced to her in the last like 2-3 years between the two of us. And there's not a song we've listened to yet that hasn't just like instantly gone straight through us. Like, as in it's hit our nervous system straight away when she sings. So I'd love to hear your take on this song.
I was driving down the highway at night when the disc jockey said, there's a new song by Brandi Carlile that goes in one ear out the other for me. I never heard of her before. It sounded like it was going to be bad. It says, called That Wasn't Me. And I go, okay. And I'm driving the car and I hear this song and I can't drive anymore. I have to pull off the road and just sit there and listen to this song. And I get to the end of the song, and there's a pause, and the disc jockey says, you know, I can't play another song after that. I need to play that song again.
Get out.
And so he played That Wasn't Me again. You know, for me, I go like, well, I don't know who this person is, this Brandi Carlile, but I'm just going to listen to everything this person ever wrote and ever will write again, which I've done. And the key, when I came home from this trip, I remember I went on Twitter and I wrote, like, I heard That Wasn't Me by Brandi Carlile on the road, a song so powerful and so beautiful, I couldn't even drive. I had to pull off the road to listen to it. And, you know, then you only have so many characters back then in Twitter. You know, you had to keep everything short. And then I wrote underneath that too. And the disc jockey, couldn't play anything else after it either. She and it are extraordinary. And I got a reply from Brandi Carlile.
Wow.
On Twitter.
Whoa,
and she wrote,
moment.
Dear Stephen, thank you so much for the kind words. Thank you for listening. And I'm going like, I'm in love with this woman. I got to find this woman. I got to...
Yeah. What a moment.
I got to throw her over my shoulder and bring her back home.
Wow, what a moment. Because imagine, like, it's almost like time stopped in that moment when that disc jockey played it. Because whatever you were feeling, clearly he felt as well.
He felt it too.
There was like a moment in time where, like, everyone was connected, that was listening to that. That's stunning. Like,
and why is it that song is so powerful? It's so powerful because the person who's talking is apologizing and trying to make amends and not making any excuses. They're not making excuses. They're taking responsibility, and they're, in a way, they're begging and saying, you have to understand, did I go on a tangent? You know, whatever you see, that wasn't me. You know, what I am is something better than that, and I have to do a better job of making that better self come to life. And how many of us have been in arguments or fights that always end up being a bunch of excuses, going, well, you know, and that song is so brutally truthful. It's just gorgeous, gorgeous. Oh.
it really is. Even I love the lines where it was saying, like, do I spend time with my family, and talking about that stuff. And it, like, each kind of section of the song pulled out a different part of me and made me reflect on all the choices I've made in my life, reflected on all the maybe mistakes I've made, or times that I've said things that weren't in my true values and beliefs, that they didn't come from my true self. And it was actually, to some extent, listening to it again today, like, it really was almost healing in a way. Like what we said earlier, some mediums or entertainment or art, it has a way of transforming your body and transforming your nervous system. And I really felt that re-listening to that today. And I think it's definitely going to be something I replay a lot in the next couple of months.
A word that's common but not correct that people use is to encourage you. And encourage means to give you courage. Courage is the rarest thing people have. People lie, they fudge on what they're doing, everything. They won't take responsibility or anything. This song I found encouraging. I felt it made me feel more brave after I heard it, to where I could be more brave in my relationship with my wife and more truthful with her. I felt it was possible.
One more thing I wanted to discuss with you was when you first replied back to us, you said that music has been your guide and saviour on occasion. Are you able to talk about that more and how it's been your saviour? Well,
you can take a look from little moments like Brandi Carlile. When I was so sick, you know, from ages 12 to 15. Really began playing the piano a lot. And I felt it helped me not focus on my imminent demise, if that's what was happening. It made me feel alive. It made me feel whole. It made me feel healed. And when I hear things like 5 years, something that I go like, this is as good as a prophecy from the Bible of telling you what you should do to be a better person or a stronger person, is not take things for granted. So I had, a lot of difficult times in my life, personal times, professional times, and again, personal injury. I broke my neck in Iceland. Riding a horse, I had open heart surgery a few years after that. And one of the few things I could do was listen to music. And when I broke my neck and when I had the open heart surgery, the music I listened to would probably be Chopin, would probably be Brahms, would probably be Beethoven. And Mozart, and just the beauty and the construction of it made me feel whole and took me to another place instead of my fear and my pain. Because a lot of those things are overwhelming, and nature makes them overwhelming because nature wants you to just sit down and shut up for a while we try to heal or have you die. And so that's where music has been a consolation for me, and it's been a focal point for me to where even if things go bad, I have piano pieces now I've been working on for 40 years, where they're getting better. They are getting better. And I get so excited when I get into a world of Beethoven or something in Debussy, and I'm able to kind of get in there and I go like, oh my God, that's what it's supposed to be. That's what it's supposed to be. And you feel this burst of, I think Aristotle, I think this is what he called it, tekneia. And that is when something in the performance of something is reflective of a bigger truth. And sometimes in acting or in music or something, you stumble across something that becomes speaking to a bigger truth. And I think that's kind of probably why the movie Groundhog's Day is so popular, is because it makes all of us speak to a bigger truth. We see ourselves in that movie somewhere in that. So for me, music's always been my touchstone, always. Whether it's rock and roll or blues, I remember there was a big period of time that I was very sad, and I would go to blues clubs at night and listen to Big Mama Thornton or Joe Turner, listen to these great, great, great blues singers, and I go like, oh, and now I feel whole. So I guess that's the salvation, is music has the ability to make us feel whole or to entertain. It could do both. And you don't have to be bored listening to classical music. There's stuff like that Schubert thing you could listen to and go like, oh my God, this is incredibly beautiful. So that's, I guess, kind of, it's been healing for me.
That was a beautiful answer. Answer. And I couldn't agree more. I feel like everything you just shared is exactly how I feel about music, and that feeling of wholeness that it can bring you in the most empty moments in your life where you're feeling like you're completely defeated or deflated from the day or the year that you're having. I would go as far as saying, like, I would think music is my best friend. It is that person. It is that thing that is there for me in all times of my life, that is there for me when I need to pick me up, or when I need to, like, be in my feelings and live in and grieve through whatever I'm going through. And it's there without judgment. You have songs that are able to allow you to be yourself and to forgive yourself. Songs like Brandy's songs are a song that allows you to forgive yourself, even while owning and being true to yourself at the same time. And I don't know, I think it's such my favorite part of life is being able to listen to music while I'm living it.
I remember when I had broken up my first big relationship, that we were together for like 16 years. I felt like I was dying, not only every day, but every hour, probably every 20 minutes, whatever. I went back home from California to Texas, and a friend of mine took me to a Willie Nelson concert, which I had never seen Willie Nelson live or anything like that. And the only seats they had were up in the balcony, so I was just up in the balcony, and he comes out and he sings Whiskey River and everything like that, and then he sings Hand on the Wheel. At a time when the world seems to be spinning, hopelessly out of control, they're deceivers, believers, and old in-betweeners that seem to have nowhere to go. I looked to the stars, I tried all of the bars, and I nearly went up in smoke. But now my hand's on the wheel of something that's real, and I feel like I'm going home. So I had never heard of that song. And he's just saying, there's nobody, just him on stage with a guitar. No band, no nothing. Him on stage with a guitar. 2,000 people listening to him. And I'm up in the balcony, and I just like go like this, and I go like, oh my God, I've been weeping. And I didn't even know I was. I didn't even know I was, you know. And so I remember when I was courting my wife, after that point in time, she saw the piano. Do you play anything on the piano, or do you just have it here for parties? And I sat her down on the bench with me, and I played Hand on the Wheel and sang it to her, and she was like, done. I'll take him.
Yeah. Wow. I'm actually getting teary.
I'll take this guy home with me, and so we have my wife and I have a lot of songs in common that we like, oh, this is part of our history.
Exactly. I actually am a bit teary. That's just such a full circle moment for you, a moment that you're mourning like a 16-year long relationship, that I know that feeling of thinking you're going to die every second of the day, because it's that feeling, it's real. You feel your heart physically breaking, and whether it's from a relationship or anything else as well. And then to have a song that hits you like that, and it comes to you in a moment where you need it, and you don't know why you need it until maybe like a few years later when you meet this person and you sing it, and that's the thing that connects you again. And life is so mysterious in that kind of way, where there's truly a purpose for everything that enters your life, even a song, I think.
Yeah.
Yes.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Oh, that was so beautiful. I felt like crying that whole time.
Yeah, that was really, really. You are extraordinary.
Yeah, and the way you articulate everything, the way I feel like they should. It doesn't matter that you're bald and you wear glasses. You should be a lead.
You should be a lead.
Yeah,
go get the girl.
Yeah. I want to see you walk away with someone on your shoulder. That was stunning. The last question we ask our guests is if they could go back in time to any part of their childhood, adolescence, and tell themselves something they thought they needed to hear. What would you say your younger self needed to hear?
Wow. Boy, that's a tricky question too, because part of the thing that made me keep pushing is that I always felt like I was falling off the cliff. And if your other self comes back and says like, you're not going to fall off the cliff, then maybe you don't try as hard.
Yes, that's a very interesting point.
I would say, to my younger self, I would come back and say, don't take any catastrophe for granted.
I love that.
Oh.
Because you learn so much in a catastrophe about yourself and about the world. You learn about your own strength, and you learn about your own determination. So honor the catastrophes. Don't pray they didn't happen.
I love that.
That is so damn right. That is so damn right. And it's really funny that you say that, because I actually was having a conversation, I think it was with you, where we were saying,
I'm the only person you talk to.
I have people. Where I was saying we've both had similarities where something catastrophic has happened to us. For me, it was my parents divorcing as an adult and how that affected me, and, you know, just to kind of give a bit of context. And I said to Elle, I wouldn't want that to change in my life, as hard as it was, as much as I felt like I was going to die every day at one point, because it was just terrible. I said to her, I wouldn't be who I am now without that. And I have a young son, and I wouldn't be the kind of mother that I want to be without that happening. So I have learnt so much from my terrible experiences that at the time I would think to myself, why is this happening to me? I wish things could go back to the way they were. You could give me $1 million for me to change that in my life, and I would not take it. I would never take that moment back. I would always have that a part of me.
I think, and in the conversation, I've also gone through I was younger when my parents got divorced, and it was a very messy situation. And I agree. In that period of time, I had that, when we were having that conversation, I agreed with her, because even now I still struggle to talk about it, and I struggle to come to terms with it, and wish and long for like the way things were. But then when I really think about it and I'm honest with myself, I like who I am because of those circumstances, because of those nights where you're crying in your bed before you go to sleep and you can't sleep, because of those nights where you're screaming out to something out there and you're just like, why is this happening to me? Why do these things keep happening to me? It's those moments that made me reflect and made me not build tough skin, because I definitely wouldn't say it's a toughness thing, but it's made me really appreciate life, beauty, love, and going and kind of living on the edge of that cliff, like not knowing what's going to happen next. So why don't I try and make the most of what I have right now? Yeah, I that was a beautiful answer. A lot of people will answer that question we just asked you with like something along the lines of like, just keep pushing through, keep doing this. And that doesn't really, when someone's listening to that, they're like, oh yeah, that's kind of like, I'm going to keep pushing through. But to say like, when something catastrophic does happen, it's okay. Just like focus on what you're like, it's actually a blessing in disguise, and you've got to just fall into that. I think that's such a beautiful thing to say, because it's almost like people are too fearful to admit that catastrophic things do happen, and it's part of life. And it's just, I really, really appreciated that answer.
Thank you. Oh my God. Thank you so much. I'm going to be talking about this past hour that we've had for you for years to come now. Like this has been this has been one of my favorite interactions.
I agree. I honestly could listen to you talk all the time. I know. All the time.
And to hear you quote things, you are a master quoter.
It's his job.
Yeah, just thank you.
Yeah, we really appreciate it.
My pleasure. My pleasure. It's nice to talk to you in that part of the world.
He makes me so happy.
He honestly, after speaking to him, I felt like I was in cloud 9 for a while.
Same.
I don't know, he actually made me realize that, yes, the small things in life do matter. But in the grand scheme of things, we are blessed to be where we are. Do you know what I mean?
Agree with you. I think I keep having in my head like what he said about like some of the most beautiful things in life are just simple.
Exactly.
The simplicity of life. And
simplicity.
I really took that away from that conversation. I feel like I felt so incredibly grateful that he was so open and raw with us. and that he put his heart on the table.
Oh
like
my
those
God.
song choices are now. I've been listening to them since we recorded.
Me
and
too.
they are some of now my like they touch my heart.
Yeah,
and
most definitely.
because he explained them so well, and because he had such a way of reaching into my heart and being like, I know this is like will touch you.
He pushed all the right buttons.
Yeah,
for us.
definitely.
He really did. And I never got a chance to say this to him while we were recording, but you know, at the time that we did, I was going through like a little bit of rough patch personally. Like I was having trouble with motherhood a little bit, and you know, my son was going through a stage where he didn't want to eat, and you know, and it left me feeling very frustrated because food is something that I get really anxious if my son's not eating, and toddlers don't eat sometimes, you know. And I walked away from that interview, and he actually made me realize, like, I don't know, that stuff doesn't matter.
No.
It's the fun that I get to have with my son, and I shouldn't be letting a dinner time, for instance, ruin how I feel about life sometimes.
100%.
But sometimes it gets to me. But I found myself, like, nearly every night it was getting to me.
Yeah.
But that interview happened at literally such a perfect time that he just made me realize that, you know, it doesn't really matter.
I agree with you. I think he left the impression of like life just continues.
It continues.
And you don't know how long you have left in this earth, so just enjoy what you can.
Just enjoy
Take
it.
the risks in your life.
Oh my God.
Take the opportunities that come your way and make something of your life for you.
Yeah.
And that includes like being okay with just saying like, hey, everyone has challenges, and like today there's going to be, every single day there's going to be a different type of challenge that comes your way, but like you can choose to be like, okay, like let's just roll with it. I feel like it was honestly one of my favorite, like I think this is an episode I will continuously listen back to a lot.
For sure. It was definitely a favorite conversation.
Yeah,
that
which we've had a lot recently.
Yeah.
And I feel like we say that for everyone, but like it really is true. Every single time we speak to someone, like I really, really enjoy just getting to know people.
Yeah.
And when people are vulnerable like this and they let you into their mind and their heart, it's impossible
wonderful.
not to feel like that's one of the greatest conversations of your life.
Exactly. I agree, huh?
Yeah.
I agree. Well, everyone, thank you so much for listening. We really appreciate it. Like, more than you know.
More than you ever know.
And we will see you next week.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye. Bye-bye. Bye-bye. Bye.